Have you ever felt like you're living but not truly alive? Everything seems fine on the outside, but deep down, something's missing. This is the story of a man, Alex, who walked away from it all. A prestigious job, the bustling city, and the version of himself he thought he had to be, to begin a journey to Nepal. Not to find a place, but to finally face what he had been running from his entire life, himself. What he discovered didn't just change him, it awakened thousands. The real question is, will you dare to take your own journey? Sparkles, Chapter 1, the beginning of the journey. 1. The call to adventure. Alex had always been a dreamer. Since his childhood, he found himself fascinated by stories of exploration and discovery. He lived in the vibrant city of Barcelona, a city known for its lively culture, historic architecture, and warm people. However, deep inside, Alex often felt like something was missing. The daily routine, the pressure of work, and the expectations of those around him seemed to trap him in a cycle that didn't feel fulfilling. One rainy evening, Alex was sitting by the window, looking at the bustling streets of the city. As the sound of rain against the glass filled his ears, he thought to himself, I need to break free. That was when he realized it was time to start his journey of self-discovery and growth. He didn't know exactly where he was going or what he would find, but Alex felt the urge to take that first step. The adventure was calling him, and so he decided to leave his comfort zone behind and embark on a journey that would change his life forever. 2. Leaving the comfort zone. Alex's decision wasn't easy. He had a stable job in a non-profit organization, surrounded by friends and family who cared about him. But deep down, he knew that staying in one place, both physically and mentally, was holding him back from realizing his full potential. He chose to step out of his comfort zone and embrace the unknown. He booked a one-way ticket to Nepal, a place that had always intrigued him with its majestic mountains, spiritual energy, and rich culture. There was something about Nepal that called to him, something he couldn't explain, but he knew he had to go. As the plane took off from Barcelona, Alex looked out the window at the city he was leaving behind. A sense of excitement, mixed with anxiety, filled his heart. He wasn't sure what the future held, but he was ready for the adventure ahead. Sparkles, Chapter 2, the journey begins. 1. Arrival in Nepal. When Alex arrived in Kathmandu, Nepal, he was immediately struck by the contrast between the bustling city streets and the calm, serene landscape that surrounded it. The hustle and bustle of everyday life in Barcelona seemed so far away now. The air was thinner, and the colors of the world around him were brighter, more vivid. He spent the first few days exploring the city, visiting ancient temples, and soaking in the sights and sounds of a culture so different from his own. But soon, Alex realized that the real journey was just beginning. Nepal had a way of challenging him to think differently, to look at the world from new perspectives. 2. Connecting with locals. One day, while walking through the narrow streets of Kathmandu, Alex met a local guide named Prakash. Prakash had spent his entire life in the Himalayas and knew the mountains like the back of his hand. He offered to take Alex on a trek through the mountains, and Alex eagerly agreed. As they trekked through the breathtaking landscapes, Alex began to learn more about the culture, the people, and the spirituality that made Nepal so unique. Prakash shared his wisdom with Alex, teaching him the importance of mindfulness, simplicity, and connection with nature. During their journey, Alex began to experience a shift within himself. The physical challenge of the trek, the quiet moments spent surrounded by nature, and the deep conversations with Prakash all contributed to his growing sense of clarity. He felt as though he was shedding the layers of doubt and fear that had held him back for so long. 3. Discovering the true meaning of life. As Alex continued his journey through Nepal, he spent time reflecting on his life, his choices, and his goals. He realized that the busy, achievement-driven life he had led in Barcelona was not truly fulfilling. In Nepal, he found a sense of peace and purpose that he had never experienced before. One evening, while sitting by a campfire with Prakash and other trekkers, Alex found himself pondering the bigger questions of life. What was his purpose? What did he want to contribute to the world? The answers weren't clear right away, but Alex knew that he was on the right path. He wasn't seeking answers from others anymore. He was learning to trust himself and his inner wisdom.
Sparkles Chapter 3: Finding Clarity. 1. A New Perspective. After several weeks of trekking in the mountains, Alex returned to Kathmandu. His body was exhausted, but his mind was clearer than ever. He had found something in the mountains, something that he couldn't explain in words. The silence, the stillness, and the connection with nature had allowed him to reconnect with his true self. Back in the city, Alex felt a strong urge to share his experiences with others. He realized that there were many people back home who were also struggling with the same sense of emptiness that he had felt before his journey. He wanted to help them find their own paths and create their own meaningful lives. 2. A New Mission. Inspired by his experiences in Nepal, Alex began to think about how he could use his newfound clarity to help others. He started working on a personal development project aimed at guiding people through their own journeys of self-discovery. He knew that he couldn't change the world overnight, but he believed that small steps could lead to big transformations. He started by hosting workshops in Barcelona, where he shared the lessons he had learned on his journey. He talked about the importance of mindfulness, the value of slowing down, and the power of being present in the moment. He encouraged people to step out of their comfort zones, just as he had done, and to embrace the unknown. 3. Building connections. As Alex's workshops gained popularity, he met people from all walks of life, people who were looking for more, who wanted to create positive change in their lives. He was inspired by their stories, and he began to realize that his journey wasn't just about his own growth. It was about helping others find their way, too. Through these connections, Alex began to form a community of like-minded individuals, all striving to make a difference in their own lives and in the world around them. He realized that the true power of his journey was not just in the personal transformation he had experienced, but in the ability to inspire others to embark on their own journeys. Sparkles Chapter 4: The Road to Self-Discovery. 1. The Power of Reflection. Back in Barcelona, Alex took time to reflect on everything he had experienced during his time in Nepal. He had learned to trust his instincts, slow down, and listen to the world around him. Yet, as he settled back into his routine, he realized that it was easy to forget the lessons learned in the mountains when surrounded by the noise and busyness of city life. He began to implement regular practices of mindfulness and self-reflection, committing to taking time every day to reflect on his thoughts, feelings, and actions. Whether it was through journaling, meditation, or simply sitting in silence, Alex made sure to create space for himself, away from distractions. As time passed, he began to see how much these moments of reflection helped him maintain clarity and focus in his life. Each day, he felt more connected to his true self, understanding better what he wanted and what he was willing to sacrifice for his growth. 2. A Challenge of the Mind. As Alex delved deeper into his personal development journey, he began to encounter challenges that were not just physical, but mental. He found that the more he worked on his emotional and mental well-being, the more his mind would throw obstacles in his path. Thoughts of self-doubt, fear, and insecurity began to surface. At first, Alex tried to avoid or suppress them, but he soon realized that this approach was only making the situation worse. Instead of ignoring his fears, he began to face them directly. Through meditation and deep introspection, Alex learned to separate himself from his thoughts and emotions. He realized that his fears were simply products of his mind, not necessarily true reflections of his reality. By accepting them without judgment, he was able to weaken their grip on him. 3. Embracing imperfection. One of the most important lessons Alex learned was the concept of imperfection. He had always strived for perfection, believing that if he could achieve the ideal life, then he would be happy. But in Nepal, he had seen the beauty in simplicity and imperfection. The people there lived modest lives, but radiated joy and peace. Alex realized that perfection was an illusion. No one could achieve it, and trying to do so only led to frustration and disappointment. Instead of trying to be perfect, Alex embraced his flaws and mistakes as part of his journey. He began to understand that it was through these imperfections that he grew and learned the most. Sparkles Chapter 5, The Art of Letting Go. 1. Releasing the past. Alex's journey was not just about learning new things. It was also about letting go of old beliefs, patterns, and attachments that no longer served him. For years, he had held on to the idea that success was the key to happiness. He believed that if he had a certain career, a certain amount of money, and a certain lifestyle, then everything would be perfect. But in Nepal, he had learned that true happiness came from within, not from external accomplishments. He realized that by holding onto past ideas of success, he was only limiting himself. The only way forward was to let go of these old beliefs and embrace a new perspective. 2. Letting go of fear. Fear had always been one of the biggest obstacles in Alex's life. He was afraid of failure, afraid of judgment, and afraid of not living up to others' expectations. But in Nepal, he had learned to face his fears head-on, and he began to see them for what they truly were: illusions. By acknowledging his fears without letting them control him, Alex found freedom. He realized that fear was a natural part of the human experience, but it didn't have to dictate his choices. Each time he faced fear and moved through it, he grew stronger and more resilient. 3. Trusting the journey. One of the most important lessons Alex learned was to trust the journey. He had spent so much time trying to control every aspect of his life, but he soon realized that life could not be controlled. The more he tried to plan everything, the more things seemed to go wrong. Instead of trying to control the outcome, Alex began to trust that everything would unfold as it was meant to. He focused on the present moment, doing the best he could in each situation, and trusting that the universe would guide him on the right path.
Sparkles Chapter 6, Transformation Through Service. 1. Giving back to the community. As Alex continued to grow and evolve on his journey, he began to feel a deep desire to give back to others. He realized that his journey was not just for his own benefit. It was about helping others discover their own paths to self-realization. He started volunteering with local organizations in Barcelona, offering support to those in need. He worked with disadvantaged youth, providing mentorship and guidance to help them build their own futures. Through this work, Alex realized that the true power of transformation came from serving others. 2. Finding purpose in service. Working with the youth in Barcelona gave Alex a new sense of purpose. He saw firsthand how small acts of kindness and mentorship could change someone's life. He felt more connected to his community and realized that helping others was one of the most fulfilling aspects of his life. Alex found that service was not just about giving. It was about creating connections and building relationships. By offering his time and energy to others, he found a deeper sense of meaning and fulfillment than he had ever experienced before. 3. Creating a legacy. As Alex continued to volunteer and serve his community, he began to think about his long-term impact. He wanted to create a legacy that would outlast his time on Earth. He realized that the greatest legacy anyone could leave was one of service, kindness, and love. He began to mentor more individuals, teaching them the importance of living with intention and giving back to others. He created programs that helped young people develop their leadership skills, inspiring them to make a difference in their own communities. Through these efforts, Alex created a ripple effect of positive change. He knew that the work he was doing would continue long after he was gone, and that was the most meaningful thing he could do with his life. Sparkles Chapter 6, Transformation Through Service. 1. Giving back to the community. As Alex continued to grow and evolve on his journey, he began to feel a deep desire to give back to others. He realized that his journey was not just for his own benefit. It was about helping others discover their own paths to self-realization. He started volunteering with local organizations in Barcelona, offering support to those in need. He worked with disadvantaged youth, providing mentorship and guidance to help them build their own futures. Through this work, Alex realized that the true power of transformation came from serving others. 2. Finding purpose in service. Working with the youth in Barcelona gave Alex a new sense of purpose. He saw firsthand how small acts of kindness and mentorship could change someone's life. He felt more connected to his community and realized that helping others was one of the most fulfilling aspects of his life. Alex found that service was not just about giving. It was about creating connections and building relationships. By offering his time and energy to others, he found a deeper sense of meaning and fulfillment than he had ever experienced before. 3. Creating a legacy. As Alex continued to volunteer and serve his community, he began to think about his long-term impact. He wanted to create a legacy that would outlast his time on Earth. He realized that the greatest legacy anyone could leave was one of service, kindness, and love. He began to mentor more individuals, teaching them the importance of living with intention and giving back to others. He created programs that helped young people develop their leadership skills, inspiring them to make a difference in their own communities. Through these efforts, Alex created a ripple effect of positive change. He knew that the work he was doing would continue long after he was gone, and that was the most meaningful thing he could do with his life. Sparkles Chapter 8. Overcoming the Darkest Hours. 1. The Return of Doubt. Even though Alex had grown tremendously on his journey, he eventually faced what many do, a return of doubt. There came a period when things seemed to stall. His projects moved slowly, people lost interest, and he began questioning whether he had made the right choices in life. He felt exhausted. The fire that once burned brightly inside him seemed dimmed by the weight of reality. He wondered if his mission had any real impact, or if it was just an illusion of progress. The loneliness of leadership, the pressure to always be strong, it began to wear him down. But in these moments of darkness, Alex remembered the mountains of Nepal. He remembered the long, difficult ascents, the cold nights, and the silence of the peaks. And he remembered that transformation always comes after struggle. 2. The inner battle. Alex realized that his greatest battle was not with the world. It was with himself. The negative thoughts, the self-judgment, the moments of shame or guilt, they all came from within. He began to dive even deeper into his self-work. He started writing again, not for others, but for himself. His journal became a safe space to express raw emotion. He sought guidance from old mentors, reconnected with Prakash through long video calls, and leaned into his community for support. Through vulnerability, Alex found strength. He understood that being a guide didn't mean being invincible. It meant walking alongside others with authenticity and compassion. 3. The rise from within. After weeks of reflection, healing, and support, Alex rose again, wiser and softer. He embraced the darkness as part of the path. He no longer feared the lows because he now knew they were a natural rhythm of growth. He updated his workshops to include teachings on emotional resilience, how to navigate failure, and how to hold space for pain without letting it define you. These were the lessons people needed most, and it made his work even more impactful. Alex had passed through the valley, and on the other side, he found a deeper, more grounded strength, not the loud kind, but the quiet power that comes from surviving the storm. Sparkles Chapter 9. The Ripple Effect. 1. Stories of change. Years passed, and Alex's movement grew. People who had once attended his small workshops began their own initiatives, mentoring youth, leading mindfulness circles, launching purpose-driven businesses. Alex traveled across Europe and beyond, speaking to audiences not just about success, but about meaning, courage, and connection. He collected stories of transformation from others, each one unique, but connected by a shared spark. His greatest pride was not in the numbers, but in the letters, the hugs, and the quiet tears of gratitude from people whose lives were changed because they dared to start their own journeys. 2. From individual to collective. What started as a personal quest for fulfillment became a collective awakening. Alex no longer saw himself as the hero of the story. Instead, he saw himself as one thread in a larger tapestry, a tapestry of seekers, healers, and leaders. He created a foundation to support emerging changemakers. The goal was not to teach them what to do, but to give them space to remember who they were. The foundation offered retreats, mentorship, and storytelling programs. In creating a space for others to grow, Alex found even deeper purpose. The ripple he had started now moved far beyond him. 3. Celebrating the journey. On the 10th anniversary of his return from Nepal, Alex stood on a hill overlooking the Mediterranean. Around him were people from many different countries, people who had once been students, clients, or strangers, now friends and partners in change. They laughed, they cried, they shared meals and stories. They celebrated not just Alex, but each other. It was not the destination that was being honored, but the road, the hardships, the courage, and the willingness to walk with heart. Sparkles Chapter 10, A Life Well Lived. 1. The quiet moments. As Alex entered the later chapters of his life, he slowed down, not out of fatigue, but from wisdom. He chose to spend more time in nature, more time writing, and more time simply being. The lessons of his life no longer needed to be spoken loudly. They were woven into his presence. Whether he was sipping tea on his balcony or walking a trail by the sea, those who met him felt something shift. It wasn't what he said, but how he lived. 2. Legacy of Light. Alex wrote a book, not for fame, but as a gift to the world. It was part memoir, part guide, part love letter to the seeker within us all. It told the story of a man who followed his intuition, faced his fears, and came home to himself. The book was passed hand to hand, gifted from mentor to mentee, parent to child. Its message was simple. Don't seek the path in others. Walk into the unknown, and the path will rise to meet you. 3. The final gift. In his final years, Alex still hosted gatherings, still listened deeply, still offered wisdom, not as a teacher, but as a companion. He remained curious, humble, and open. When he passed, the world did not mourn with sorrow, but celebrated with reverence. His students planted trees across continents, built schools, and shared stories around fires and in books. Alex had lived not just a full life, but a meaningful one. His final gift to the world was not what he did, but who he became. In the end, what Alex found wasn't at the top of a mountain, or in some grand success. It was in every moment he chose to live fully, every soul he touched, and in the quiet peace that came from no longer needing to prove anything. The journey didn't end in Nepal. It began again in all of us. Because the real question isn't, how did Alex change the world? But rather, how will you change after hearing his story? Screen fades to black. White text appears slowly. The only journey worth taking is the one within. With a powerful call to action button. Begin your journey today.